I can still feel the pain of my heart breaking and my eyes opening to the reality of the world for the first time. When I was 10 years old, my parents took myself and 3 siblings on a service trip to Guatemala. We set out with an organization called Kids Around the World to build 2 playgrounds. The first playground that we built was at an all-girls orphanage in a rural part of the country. Today, I can still see the face of a sweet little girl who was no older than 3. I carried her around and did anything I could to make her laugh. At some point during the afternoon, she motioned towards this old metal swing set that was in the side yard of the orphanage. I carried her over and I began to push her. "Hold on tight," I exclaimed, forgetting that she didn't speak a word of English. I checked her grip, her hands, to make sure that she was safe. And it was then that I realized that most of her fingers were not fully there. Though I was a little surprised, I just kept pushing her. Later, in the quiet of our hotel room, I asked my parents what had happened to her. They explained that many of the girls were severely abused prior to being placed in the orphanage, and that her hands were the products of years of torment. Shock grabbed hold of my heart. I had been holding that little girl all day, probably even holding her hands at some point. But I never opened my eyes to see the reality of who she was, the pain she had known, and the strength that her laughter had today. This made me passionate to understand what compassion and injustice looked like in the world. It was a revelation filled with love. Where are you going and who are you taking with you? I want to start with this question because the next 15 minutes or so are ultimately about you second, my experiences third, and the hurting yet hopeful world that needs your commitment first. Where are you going and who are you taking with you? Good evening, everyone. My name is Courtney Quigley. In the timing of our world, I am a millennial. Because my timing is unique, I'd like to share with you some of my thoughts later in our talk tonight. In the day-to-day, I am a student at New York University, a daughter to 2 amazing parents, a sister to 3 wonderful siblings, a writer, and a co-founder and leader of the nonprofit Hope's Inn. Hope's Inn is an organization dedicated to impacting Guatemala City garbage dump communities, as well as empowering the next generation of humanitarian leaders. Since I was young, I was interested in the intersection of passion and compassion. I wondered why the 2, passion and compassion, were often treated as 2 different roads, when they really seemed destined to be of the same journey. But before I describe how they work together, let me first try to define them one by one. Passion is something people are grateful to find. It's something you discover that you love to do. It's a skill, a hobby, a lifestyle, or a body of knowledge that people have claimed as their own. Some people are passionate about art or science or math. What's your passion? What are you good at? Compassion, on the other hand, is something required of everyone, something we all need to act out of, for, and with. We claim it for others. Compassion is a sense of empathy evoked within us when we witness a flaw in humanity or see an oppressive state of the human condition. Compassion brings relief, a breath of fresh air, and a sense of love to people. When you feel compassion build within yourself, do you wonder what you can do in addition to writing a check, spreading the word? So what does it mean to people trying to put passion and compassion together? Well, to begin with, it means looking at life's purposes through giving back, empowering others, and looking for ways to serve within your own expertise or skill set. When you combine what your heart loves with your hand or mind skills, you find this new strength and new agency to get things done. So, what if you could take your love for cycling and bike around the country raising money for causes that you love? Or what if you could take a position of power or authority and instill a culture of giving back in your company or classroom? Or what if you're a talented writer and can help a local nonprofit with their monthly or annual publications? These are just a few examples. Now, let's continue to investigate the intersection through a new lens. What does this mean to my generation? Well, I'm a millennial. Millennials are the group of Americans born between 1980 and the mid-2000s. My generation is the largest generation known to date, according to the White House Council of Economic Affairs. They also say that my generation is the first to have access to technology during our formative years. That explains why millennials are always tweeting, Facebooking, Instagramming, and taking selfies. My generation is the first generation that will be able to say that technology shaped how they see the future. My generation is the most diverse and educated. We have access to infinite sources of knowledge, information, and forums to comment upon at any given moment of the day. That's why some say millennials always feel they're entitled to an opinion, recognition, or a place to comment. But let's look at this through a positive light, because many great things have happened due to this access to information and technology. I want to share with you two things that are unique about millennials, our timing in the world, and how we are using this era to work in the intersection of passion and compassion. The first unique quality of my generation is that it is seeking very genuine connection. My generation grew up in a world of Photoshop, where images, quotes, magazine covers, and society have all been manipulated and repositioned. However, my generation is very aware of the world around us because we are constantly bombarded with information. This paradox creates friction in our perception of the world. That's why my generation has seen infinite campaigns with the underlying message of embracing flaws, questioning mainstream media, and we are often encouraged to display our own insecurities. The second unique quality of my generation is that it is seeking very purposeful endeavors. My generation is looking for careers that are mission-centered. How does this characteristic take effect in tangible ways other than career choice? Well, two core ways: education and experiences. Let's begin with education. The wonderful university I attend, New York University, has now added 2 new tracks due to popular demand: a minor in social entrepreneurship and a major in public policy. What does this say specifically about the future? Well, it says millennials are being educated at very high levels to become effective change makers. Additionally, my generation is looking for very purposeful experiences. My generation is looking for once-in-a-lifetime experiences, ones of adventure and empowerment. Many of my peers are traveling every break to serve globally or locally. Many universities now have something called alternative breaks, where students and staff travel around the world to serve. I want to ask you to reflect upon your relationship with millennials, or if you are a millennial, with your peers, within your community or classroom or company. Exemplify the way you carry yourself, your values, your culture, and your goals. Adult leaders have expertise and skill sets that my generation won't gain until we've invested years of our life in the workforce or public sector. Now, I'd like to share with you some moments of inspiration, because inspiration is what keeps us all motivated. I found that the best moments of personal inspiration are found when I'm observing my own intersection or the intersection of another. This story began 5 years ago when I got involved in the life of my dear friend Monica. I met Monica when she was just 8 years old through the sponsorship program at Potter's House Association. I spent 3 of my high school summers interning for them, and it was during my first summer there that I met Monica. Monica and her 4 siblings live in the Guatemala City garbage dump communities. These communities are home to over 13,000 people who make a living off of scavenging in the city's landfill. The conditions of these communities are heart-wrenching. Houses are made of scrap metal, cardboard, and plastic found in the garbage. Children's wardrobes are comprised of thrown-away shoes, shirts, and pants, and dinner is often courtesy of mom or dad's findings in the trash. Monica's story is one of great pain, yet so much promise. Monica and her siblings would often suffer from rat bites in their sleep during their childhood. I still recall seeing Monica's backpack littered with holes one day. "What are these from, Monica?" I asked her. She explained that she had left a piece of bread in the front pocket overnight and found rat bites through it the next morning. Monica's sister, who is my age, 20 years old, now has 2 children of her own. With 7 children living under the same roof, it made it all the more devastating when the unthinkable happened 3 years ago. Monica's mother, who we will call Maria for protective purposes, was arrested with little to no explanation along with 15 others in the community. A year went by and my family didn't really know what to do. Outside of inquiries and questioning Monica, we couldn't get the answers that we needed. But when the second year came around, we knew that we needed to start reaching out to our contacts in Guatemala, as we had gotten word that Monica's older sister was going to fail her grade and that the family could no longer afford dinners because the grandma was the sole source of income. Our decision was that we needed to locate Maria. So we reached out to our friends at the International Justice Mission, and my dad actually met a man who did work in prisons throughout Guatemala. He was able to locate Maria, and she presented him with this letter, shown on the screens. In the letter, she talks about the heartbreak of being away from her children, the help she needs, and she says to, quote, "Thank Courtney and her family for the support that they had given her so far," end quote. As if I wasn't invested then, you can bet I was all in now. My family, we were ready to step in and help in any way possible, but the bottom line was that the justice system was broken, and Maria hadn't even faced any type of sentencing yet. We were told that all we could do was wait and hope that a miracle would take place. This past August, my family took our annual trip to Guatemala. We went with our organization Hope Sin in partnership with Potter's House Association. We spent 2 weeks there, and on the last Thursday of our stay, our miracle arrived. We got word from Potter's House that Maria was being released from prison as she had been declared innocent with no evidence found against her. We were so excited and even more joyful because we were going to the family's house later in the afternoon to deliver a stove. We arrived at the house and we found streamers, balloons, and posters that said, "Welcome home, Mama." We told the family that August 11th was a day for the books. It was a historic day in the life of their family. The girls were so happy and overjoyed, and in fact, the best way to describe how they were acting is giddy. It was the happiest I'd seen them in the last 3 years. We said our goodbyes, and as we were leaving, 3 of the girls jumped on the small metal cart that we had brought the stove over on. "All aboard!" they yelled and giggled, pretending it was a small train. Well, the train left the station out of their alleyway, and as we turned the corner, all I heard was, "Is that my mom?" Without a moment's hesitation, 3 of the girls were running full speed ahead to their mom. I caught some of it on camera. Tears, floods of tears, shouts that cried "Mama" and long embraces were the celebration of a homecoming that was 3 years in the making. To me, these are the images I think of when I think of a life lived in the intersection of passion and compassion. I could spend my life searching for so many things and working for so many things, but nothing compares to seeing a heartbroken mom reunited with her children. Nothing compares to the symphony of shouts of joy and parade of tears. Nothing compares to going up to Maria and saying, "Welcome home. I am not worthy of seeing this moment, but welcome home. You were searched for, you are sought after, and you are loved." I want everyone to experience life lived in the intersection of passion and compassion. Living with just passion is like living in black and white. You know what you love to do and maybe even why. But living in the intersection fills your world with colors. You know not only what you love to do and why, but for whom you do it. I want this intersection of passion and compassion to strengthen and broaden around the world daily. This broadening, well, it begins first for the search for what captivates our hearts, second with our skills and actions, and third with our colors. Life demands to be colorful. Please see to it that you live out its vibrancy. So, where are you going and who are you taking with you? I want to end with this question because the last 15 minutes or so were ultimately about you second, my experiences third, and the hurting yet hopeful world that needs your commitment first. Thank you.